Sadie Hartley was a 60-year-old mother of two and resided in Lancashire, England. She met and married 57-year-old Ian Johnston, an ex-firefighter. Little did she know that Ian had an ex by the name of Sarah Williams, age 35, who was determined to win Ian back no matter what. Ian had broken up with Sarah when she started to become extremely obsessive. However, that wasn't the end of it. Sarah was determined to win Ian back. In June 2014, Sarah sent Sadie a letter to try to get her out of the picture. She wrote about the, quote, unbelievably fantastic sex, unquote, her and Ian were having behind her back. Sadie didn't believe Sarah's letter, leaving Sarah extremely angry. It didn't help that Ian had been texting Sarah behind Sadie's back, leading her on and giving her false hope. Sarah and her best friend Katrina Walsh decided that the only way she could win Ian back was to kill Sadie. So, they began planning her murder. In December of 2015, Sarah and Katrina traveled to Germany to buy a cattle prod, a stick with electrodes on the end which is used to make cattle move through a relatively high voltage, low current electric shock, almost like a 500,000 voltage stun gun. They then went to the store and bought clothes and shoes that were several sizes too big to try and cover their tracks. A week before they had planned to murder Judith, Sarah and Katrina decided to scope everything out. In order to not look suspicious, they bought flowers and left them at Judith's store. January 14, 2016, Judith was home alone while her husband was on a skiing trip in Switzerland. Sarah and Katrina both rang Judith's doorbell. When she opened it, Katrina immediately zapped Sadie with the cattle prod, leaving her almost paralyzed while Sarah stabbed her 41 times. Katrina Walsh was later caught on CCTV footage at the stable where she worked, trying to hide the evidence. The next day, a call was made to police from an employee of Judith's.
Good evening, Lancashire Police.
I'm just wondering whether you'd be able to do a check on my boss's address. We've not heard from her for over 24 hours. Her name is Sadie Hartley.
When police arrived at Judith's home, they were struck by a terrible scene. Judith was lying in a pool of blood in her hallway. Police immediately launched an investigation and went door to door asking neighbors if they saw or heard anything. Judith's husband Ian was the first to be brought in for questioning, although he was quickly ruled out as a suspect. He had told police about the suspicious flowers that Judith had received the week prior and also mentioned his crazy ex-girlfriend Sarah Williams. Authorities got a hold of the CCTV footage near Judith's home, as well as Sarah's cell phone records. It was determined that Sarah's cell phone was in the area a week before the murders. Immediately, police knew that Sarah was the one who delivered the flowers to Judith. On January 17 at 3 a.m., police arrived at Sarah's home in Chester and arrested her. Additionally, they searched her home and were not able to find any evidence linking her to the murder of Judith. However, police noticed a strong smell of bleach coming from the bathroom. When they decided to check it out, they found tiny blood spatters on the bathtub, and when they tested the blood, it matched Judith's. Police had also told Sarah that they saw her on CCTV footage, leaving Sadie's neighborhood on the night of the murder, in a car that she had bought with cash from a dealership. Sarah was also seen on camera getting gas in her new car and paying inside with cash, trying to hide her face.
First thing I'm going to ask you, Sarah, is are you responsible for the death of Sadie Hartley? 14th of January last year. Was they just gone?
Yeah.
Where were you?
I was at home in Chester. Well, I got home at, I think about 4. I'd been sent home from work with sickness. Met him, started skiing on March 11, so I met him at some point during that year. That carried on until we fell out in the August 2014.
Tell me what happened.
But yeah, he basically felt that I was too clingy and too needy. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I'd say I'm not. And then I wrote Sadie a letter, tell her everything that happened. She rang me up, had a go at me, obviously as you would expect. But we're not all happy. Went to his house, we had an enormous row.
What for on Sadie?
Were you jealous of him?
No, the way I saw it is, he's quite happy to spend 12 months cheating on her and messing her about and talking about leaving. That's not something to be jealous of. I didn't see if they had a great relationship.
What I'm going to show you next, Sarah, is CCTV from Sunnybank Road, and it shows two figures with a bunch of flowers walking down the road towards Sadie's house. No comment. With CCTV evidence, it shows two persons leaving Williams' address and walk along Treborth Road time on the 14th of January 2006. You've explained to us you were ill in bed because you've been sick. Can you explain any of that to me?
No comment.
When Katrina was questioned by police, she tried to act as if she was a victim as well.
A zapper, a knife, the soles of some boots.
Tell me what a zapper is.
It's a black thing with a squeezy, and it's got prongs, and it makes a horrible crackly noise.
The next item on this list, what does that say?
A knife.
Right, tell me about that.
It's a knife, and at the time I suspected it's killed somebody
Okay, why do you suspect that?
because I've been told to destroy it.
Who by?
Sarah. She got in my car and gave me bags with instructions to burn the clothes and the towels and everything, and utterly destroy everything else. I opened the bag. I opened the bag.
Go on.
She's done it. She's done it. She's done it.
She's done what?
She's killed somebody. She's killed somebody.
How do you know that?
There's a knife and the zapper and.
All right. Okay.
I've got evidence.
Katrina told police that she was scared of Sarah and basically blamed everything on Sarah. She also told police that the murder weapon and other evidence were at the stable where she worked. Katrina then led investigators to the evidence that she had buried at the stable. The knife Sarah and Katrina used in the murder still had Sadie's blood on it. After police searched Katrina's home, they came across her diary, and what they found written inside was all the evidence they needed. Katrina Walsh was no victim. She knew what she was doing, and she knew it was wrong. In her diary she wrote, "I have no moral qualms, just a serious don't get caught twinge." In another diary entry, Katrina wrote that it was her idea to use the 500,000 voltage cattle prod. She wrote in another diary entry that Sarah Williams, who carried out the stabbing, needed protection. It stated she could do with that zapper, or she risks being injured herself. On August 17, 2016, Sarah Williams was found guilty and sentenced to a minimum of 30 years in prison, and Katrina Walsh was sentenced to a minimum of 25 years. In a statement from Mr. Justice Turner, the judge responsible for jailing the two women, it was stated that Hartley's death was a clinical assassination and described the alleged murder plot as being a game of death. Turner went on to add, "Let no one believe this was a crime of passion. This was a crime of obsession, arrogance, barbarity, and pure evil."
Evil and cowardly attack perpetrated against this defenceless Sadie tore into our families, friends, and the communities we live in. There can be no forgiveness for such vile behaviour.
Her death has left a huge void, and the last few months have been the hardest we could have ever had imagined. Mum was a much-loved sister, aunt, friend. She will miss birthdays, Christmases, and many milestones we as a family will go through. We may have received some justice with a conviction and sentencing of Sarah Williams and Katrina Walsh, but it will never be enough. It will never bring our mum back.
As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.